Sure, below is a powerful, original speech in the literary and spiritual style of C.S. Lewis, rich in metaphor, logic, and soul, stirring insight, without explicitly mentioning him. The title is *****, a stop running away from blessing. *****, stop running away from blessing, *****. It is a strange thing, isn't it, how often we speak of wanting a better life, fuller joy, deeper meaning, yet when it begins to approach us, we quietly close the door. Blessing, in all its quiet majesty, comes like morning light creeping into a darkened room, and instead of opening the curtains wide, we rush to shut them tighter. We do not so much lack the blessing as we lack the courage to receive it. There are many reasons for this. Chief among them is that blessing rarely comes wrapped in the paper we expect. It does not always arrive in abundance, applause, or serenity. Sometimes blessing arrives as a burden. Sometimes it wears the face of sacrifice, patience, or waiting. And so, in mistaking it for misfortune, we flee. We run from the very thing that would have grown us strong, that would have taught us to sing with gratitude instead of groaning with self-pity. It is possible, frighteningly so, to become so accustomed to famine that we mistrust the bread when it is offered. A soul long fed on crumbs begins to suspect that the feast is a trap. We have trained ourselves to believe that struggle is more trustworthy than peace, and so when peace appears at the door, we hesitate, we withdraw, we whisper to ourselves, "Surely, this cannot be for me." And in that moment, blessing retreats, not because it is weak, but because it is never forced. The gifts of God are offered, not imposed. Love may knock, but it will not break down the door. Joy may sing outside our window, but it will not climb in uninvited. We must choose to receive. The tragedy is not that blessing is rare, but that we are often unready. We think we are waiting for life to begin, for joy to arrive, for some great spiritual event to crash into our days like a thunderstorm. But all the while, blessing is there, disguised in the ordinary. A kind word, a morning breeze, an opportunity to forgive, the whisper of grace in an unremarkable hour. How often do we turn our face away from these soft mercies, imagining something greater must come? And then there is fear. Blessing demands transformation, and transformation always threatens comfort. To be blessed is not merely to be made happy, it is to be made whole, and wholeness requires surrender. We must lay down our pride, our wounds, our excuses, our illusions of control. That is why many run. It is easier to wear our chains than to walk free, because freedom makes demands. It demands trust. It demands that we believe we are loved, and some cannot bear to believe such a thing. But know this, you are not chased by wrath. You are not pursued by judgment. You are not stalked by shame. You are being followed by goodness and mercy. You are being offered something far richer than you have dared to imagine. You are being invited not to perform or earn, but to receive. The irony is that we keep running toward substitute, chasing approval, chasing success, chasing the fleeting thrill of distraction. And all the while, the real treasure is behind us, trying to catch up. We run to emptiness while fullness pleads to be allowed in. You must stop. Stop not because you are failing, but because you are fleeing. Stop not because you are lost, but because you are being found. Pause long enough to let the blessing overtake you. Do not resist the grace that is after you. Do not despise the quiet ways God reaches for your heart. Do not mistake His hand for coincidence, or His timing for delay. And when the blessing comes, when it comes as peace in the storm, or clarity in confusion, or even the strength to carry something hard, do not ask why it took so long. Ask instead why you waited so long to stop running. Because perhaps, just perhaps, it's been right behind you all along. Blessing often comes disguised as burden, and we flee because we don't recognize it. It is one of the quiet tragedies of the human heart that we so often mislabel the very thing that is meant to heal us. Blessing, contrary to the soft and polished image we paint of it, is not always wrapped in beauty or ease. It does not always come to us in the form of abundance, applause, or sunshine after the storm. More often than we care to admit, blessing arrives in the shape of burden. It comes with a weight that is not meant to crush us, but to carve us. And because we expect it to feel light and effortless, we reject what is actually good for us simply because it doesn't look the way we imagined. We flee from pain without asking if it might be purposeful. We rush to escape discomfort without wondering if it has something to teach. There is a kind of mercy that wears the clothes of hardship, a grace that enters through the door of loss, a deep wisdom that only grows in the dark places of the soul. And yet, when it knocks, we do not greet it with welcome. We tighten our grip on the familiar and run. It is not that we are ungrateful. In fact, we pray for blessing often. We speak of it with longing. We plead for change, for growth, for healing, for purpose. But when the answer to those prayers begins to form, not in comfort, but in challenge, we instinctively turn the other way. We believe something must be wrong when in fact something is being made right. The refining fire does not feel like a gift, but it is. The pruning shears do not sound like love, but they are wielded by a hand that knows exactly what must be cut away so that we may flourish. It is our narrow definition of blessing that causes our confusion. We think it means ease. We think it means more of what we want and less of what we fear. But the true blessing is not in the comfort itself. It is in becoming someone who no longer needs comfort in order to be faithful, joyful, or free. Think of how many stories, how many turning points, how many awakenings have come through the doorway of difficulty. The blessings that changed us the most rarely looked like gifts at first. They came through heartbreak, through failure, through delay. They came through loneliness, disappointment, or a path that looked like it led nowhere. And yet, when we look back, we can trace the fingerprints of grace across every hard moment. What if the same is true right now, in this present struggle, this current waiting? What if the weight you are carrying is not there to break your back, but to build your strength? What if the unanswered prayer is not a sign of silence, but an invitation to press in deeper, to listen more closely, to trust beyond what you can see? We are quick to ask for blessing, but slow to embrace the form it takes. There is something in us that wants the result without the process, the crown without the cross, the joy without the shaping. But blessing is not shallow, it is not cheap. It comes with depth, and depth is formed through tension. The root must go down before the fruit can come forth, and that downward growth, that inward stretching, that hidden development, it does not feel like glory, but it is sacred. We were never promised that blessing would come without labor. The soil must be broken before the seed can rise. The night must fall before the dawn can be seen. And sometimes the blessing is not in what we receive, but in who we become while we wait. The burden you carry might be the answer to the very prayer you prayed for strength. The closed door might be the rescue you didn't know you needed. The silence you hear may not be absence at all, but a quiet preparation. You cannot see the whole picture yet. That's why faith is required. If we only believed in blessing when it looked obvious, then what we are really worshiping is comfort, not truth. But truth tells us that some of the greatest gifts we will ever receive come in wrapping paper that does not appeal to the eye. They look like difficulty. They feel like resistance. They arrive quietly and leave slowly, but when they do leave, we are not the same. We are stronger, wiser, more rooted, more alive. And when we look back, we realize we weren't being punished. We were being prepared. We think we are escaping pain, but sometimes we are running from the very process that would have made us whole. We want the blessing, but we do not want to carry what it takes to receive it. Yet it is only in the carrying, the enduring, the surrendering that the blessing does its work. It cannot be rushed. It cannot be reduced to something surface level. It goes into the soul and reorders what we value, what we fear, what we trust. It softens the places in us that have grown cold. It strengthens the parts of us that were weak. It builds in us a capacity to carry more, to love more deeply, to walk more boldly, and it often begins disguised as burden. That is why we must be still enough, brave enough, honest enough to ask not just how do I escape this, but what if this is the beginning of something good? Blessing is not always something that comes asterisk after asterisk the pain. Sometimes it asterisk is asterisk the pain, seen through the lens of faith, understood through the slow unfolding of time. It is the bitter medicine that heals. It is the storm that waters the roots. It is the delay that teaches patience. It is the interruption that saves us from disaster. But we will never know its value if we keep fleeing before it has a chance to reveal its purpose. We must learn to stay, to sit with it, to listen, to ask better questions, to trust the process even when it is silent, because it may be that the very thing we are trying to escape is the thing sent to rescue us. We run from blessing not due to scarcity, but because receiving it requires surrender and transformation. We often imagine ourselves as seekers of goodness, longing for peace, fulfillment, and joy. Yet when those very things begin to enter our lives, we retreat as if they were threats rather than answers. It is not because blessings are rare or distant that we miss them. It is because they require something from us that we are not always willing to give. To receive a true blessing is to be transformed by it, and transformation is a deeply unsettling process. We speak often of wanting to grow, wanting to be changed, wanting to live in the fullness of who we are meant to be. But when the moment of growth approaches, it does not ask for our comfort. It asks for our surrender. To receive blessing is not a passive event. It is not like collecting a gift from a shelf or unlocking a prize after completing a task. It is the act of being undone and rebuilt. It is the call to allow something higher, deeper, and more enduring to take hold of us and shape us. And that shaping never happens without cost. This is why so many turn away. They do not deny the existence of blessing. They fear what it will demand. They are not unwilling to be happy. They are unwilling to let go of what keeps them miserable. Blessing is not just about adding something new. It is about making room, which means letting go of the old. And for many, the old is familiar, predictable, safe. There is a certain strange comfort in brokenness. There is security in routine, even if that routine keeps us small. The pain we know is less frightening than the unknown we cannot predict. So when blessing knocks, it is not only met with resistance, it is often mistaken for threat. Because it pulls us away from the shore, it asks us to step out into deep water. It calls us to leave behind the excuses we've lived in, the bitterness we've worn like armor, the fear we've mistaken for wisdom. And that kind of invitation is terrifying. To be blessed means to be changed, and change begins with surrender. We tend to think of surrender as weakness, but it is the most courageous act a soul can make. It is to lay down control, not because we are defeated, but because we trust the one who calls us. And trust is the heart of blessing. Without trust, we see every opportunity through the lens of suspicion. We question whether good things are traps. We wonder if joy will last. We brace ourselves for disappointment even in the middle of peace. And so, without even realizing it, we sabotage our own joy. We push away what we deeply crave because we fear what it might cost us to receive it fully. There is a cost to every blessing, not because blessings are cruel, but because we are not yet whole. and to be made whole is a process of breaking. The walls we've built must be torn down. The lies we've believed must be confronted. The pain we've buried must be brought to light. Blessing does not just want to decorate your life. It wants to heal you. It wants to reach the parts of you that are hidden in shadow, and healing is rarely painless. It takes time. It asks for patience. It draws us into spaces we would rather avoid. But what waits on the other side is not just better circumstances. It is a better you. We talk often about being ready for blessing, but readiness is not about perfection. It is about willingness. The most powerful blessings come to those who are willing to be honest, to be vulnerable, to admit they do not have all the answers. The open hand receives more than the clenched fist ever could. But we are afraid to open our hands. We think that what we're holding now, even if it's small or harmful, is all we'll ever have. So we cling, we grip, we defend, and in doing so, we miss the abundance that could be ours if only we would loosen our hold. The refusal to surrender is often disguised as strength. We tell ourselves we are being realistic, being wise, being cautious, but underneath those masks is often a heart that is afraid to hope. And hope, too, is dangerous. Because it makes us vulnerable, it exposes our longing, it reveals how deeply we want something more. But that vulnerability is not weakness, it is sacred ground. It is the place where blessing begins to enter, not because we have earned it, but because we are finally willing to receive it. When we run from surrender, we run from blessing. We think we are protecting ourselves, but we are only prolonging the emptiness. We say we want to be filled, but our hearts are already full of fear, of pride, of bitterness, of self-reliance. There is no room for blessing in a heart that has closed itself to change. There is no growth where the soil has not been broken. To be blessed is to be emptied, to be reformed, to be given new eyes. It is not merely to have more, but to become more. And becoming more means releasing what no longer serves us. It is tempting to believe that blessing can come on our terms, that we can hold on to our comfort and still walk into our calling, that we can stay exactly the same and still live in the fullness of life. But blessing disrupts that illusion. It invites us to step into something larger, truer, deeper. It asks for our whole selves. Not just the parts we like, not just the parts we show to others, but the hidden places too, the fears, the regrets, the parts of us still stuck in old patterns, old wounds, old identities, and so many choose to run. Not because the blessing is too small, but because it is too great, because it sees too much, because it calls us into light that we're not sure we're ready for, because it awakens in us a hunger we have long tried to silence. Yet the blessings that call us to surrender are the ones that change our lives forever. They do not flatter us, but they free us. They do not coddle us, but they complete us. And in choosing not to receive them, we are not avoiding pain. We are avoiding transformation. We are not staying safe. We are staying stuck. We are not protecting ourselves. We are postponing the life we were made to live. Blessing stands waiting, not at the edge of what we can control, but at the edge of what we are willing to release. Real treasure chases us quietly while we exhaust ourselves chasing hollow substitutes. We live in a world that constantly encourages motion. Keep moving, keep striving, keep chasing. There is always something just ahead that promises fulfillment, purpose, identity. We are taught that significance is found in accumulation, of achievements, of wealth, of approval. So we run relentlessly toward things that glitter for a moment but vanish when grasped. We exhaust ourselves in pursuit of success, validation, and distraction, all the while unaware that something greater, quieter, and far more valuable is following behind us. It does not scream for attention. It does not demand a spotlight. It simply follows, waiting for us to stop running long enough to notice. Real treasure, unlike its counterfeit substitutes, is not always loud or obvious. It does not race ahead. It gently pursues. We become so fixated on reaching what's next that we rarely turn around to see what is already trying to reach us. Blessing, the kind that actually satisfies the soul, is not a product of relentless chasing. It is a gift that arrives not when we grasp harder, but when we finally let go. But letting go is hard. We have been trained to believe that rest is weakness, that stillness is failure, that to pause is to lose. So we keep running, driven not by peace but by fear. The fear of missing out, of falling behind, of being forgotten. But in all this frantic movement, we outrun the very things meant to anchor and restore us. There is a deep irony here. We believe we are chasing life, when in fact life is trying to catch us. We believe we are searching for love, when love has already found us. We believe we are earning worth, when worth has been offered freely. The more we strive, the further we drift from the quiet truth that we are already seen, already pursued, already invited into something greater. The true blessings of life do not demand to be chased. They ask to be welcomed, and yet we keep running, addicted to momentum, terrified that stopping will reveal just how empty the noise has become. We pursue recognition, thinking it will give us identity. We pursue possession, thinking it will bring security. We pursue experiences, thinking they will cure the ache. But none of these pursuits ever satisfy the deepest longings of the soul. They offer flashes of pleasure, moments of relief, but they do not last. And what's worse, they distract us from the steady presence of what is real. We are so focused on catching the next thing that we forget to receive what is already here. We have become so used to striving that we don't know how to recognize grace when it stands beside us. Real blessing does not always look like success. It does not always feel like excitement. Often, it shows up in moments of quiet, in the gentle rhythm of ordinary days, in the silent healing that happens slowly, almost imperceptibly, when we finally stop performing. It does not compete for attention with the world's noise. It waits for silence. It waits for humility. It waits for room, but our hearts are crowded. Crowded with anxiety, comparison, distraction, pride. So even when blessing arrives, we miss it. We mistake it for something else. Or worse, we reject it because it does not look like what we expected. There is something deeply humbling about realizing that the treasure we've been chasing has been behind us all along. That the goodness and mercy meant for us have never stopped following. That the blessing we thought we had to earn was never based on our performance. But this realization only comes when we stop, when we turn around, when we allow ourselves to rest. The great tragedy is not that we are unloved, but that we are too busy to notice we are loved. It is not that we are not being offered peace, but that we are so focused on striving that we refuse to receive it. Stillness is not inactivity. It is attention. It is learning to see again, to recognize what is good, what is true, what is lasting, to let go of the illusion that life is found in the chase. There is a blessing in being still long enough to let the truth catch up to you. In realizing that the race you've been running was never required, in recognizing that everything you were made for is not out there, far away. It's closer than you imagined, waiting to be received. But it cannot be received while your hands are full of all the things you've been chasing. This is not a condemnation of ambition or desire. The desire to be loved, to be known, to have purpose. Those are sacred desires. But when we attach them to things that cannot satisfy, we end up running in circles, never arriving. The soul cannot be nourished by applause or accumulation. It can only be nourished by truth, and truth is not something you chase. It's something you receive, something you allow to root itself deep within you. Something that speaks when the noise fades and the striving stops. We must unlearn the belief that blessing is reserved for the fast, the accomplished, the extraordinary. We must stop equating worth with movement. We must learn to receive again, to see again, to believe again that the deepest gifts come not through pursuit, but through presence. That joy is not something we earn, but something we welcome. That love is not something we catch, but something that catches us. In a world that runs fast and praises the chase, it takes courage to be still. It takes faith to believe that what's meant for you will not require frantic striving, that what's real will not abandon you, that what's true does not need to be hunted down. It simply needs to be seen, to be trusted, to be received with open hands, quiet hearts, and the humility to admit that maybe, just maybe, you've been running in the wrong direction all along.